Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Info Nuggets with Amy. I'm your host, Amy. I'm the Assistant Branch Manager and Adult Services Librarian of the main library of the St. Johns County Public Library System in St. Augustine, Florida. Today we're going to be talking about the Gale Books and Authors database. This is one of my favorite tools for discovering new titles or new authors in order to find new books. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to go ahead and start us off here on the library's website, which is SJCPLS.org. And if you ever forget it, it's the initials of our library, St. Johns County Public Library System.org. From here, I'm going to hover over where it says eLibrary and then come right down over here to where it says Databases. You want to be careful when you're sliding over to stay within this blue area, because if you go out of it, the menu disappears. So have a steady hand as you're coming over to Databases. From here, we have a fairly lengthy list of all of the databases that the library subscribes to, and there's quite a few. But have no fear, they are in alphabetical order because we are librarians and we like the alphabet. So let's scroll down to Gale Books and Authors database. We're going to go ahead and click on there. You might get a screen that pops up that says something like type in your library card or card authentication, something like that. This just proves that you're one of our patrons. So you'll type in your library card number with no spaces, and then it will give you full access to the entire database. So there's a couple of different ways that we can use the database. The first one, basic one, is when you pull up the website. You have your new and updated books listed right here. You can scroll through, see some new books. They also have some calendar-specific events, like here are some books about voting. We have something here in honor of National Adoption Month. These will change according to the season. But let's go ahead and type in a book or an author that we know we already like and see if we can find some suggestions from there. I'm going to start off with one of my recent favorite authors, Deanna Rayburn. She does an excellent series, the Veronica Speedwell series. She is what I call the Victorian lady detective genre, where she is an amateur sleuth who finds dead bodies and goes around and solves crime. Fun stuff. So here on the result page, if we had multiple authors that had similar names, they would all be displayed here and it would allow you to choose from it, but there is only one Deanna Rayburn. So we'll click on that and it's going to come up with a list of her different books. I'm going to choose a book from her Veronica Speedwell series. Click here on Curious Beginning, which is the first one in the series. It gives us an overview of the book itself, tells me what kind of formats it's available in. There might be some book reviews associated with it. Also note, you can adjust things like font size if you wanted to. There's quite a few font sizes available to us. Let's bring that down a bit. But also read-alikes. So this is a curated list of titles that are similar to this particular book. What we can also do, over here on the right, we have some much more faceted categories for this title. So for instance, first we have these two broad categories. It's mystery fiction, it's also historical fiction. But then we get into the subgenres like amateur detective fiction, or mystery series fiction, or Victorian history fiction. Settings, London, England, or the subject matter, interpersonal relations, kidnapping, murder, science, all that fun stuff. Or the time period. What I'm going to do, though, because the aspect that I like the most about this book is the amateur detective aspect. So I'm going to click on that, and it will bring me to a rather long list of amateur detective books. One of the things that I do want to do is it automatically defaults to all ages. I'm just going to take out children and young adult because I am primarily interested in the adult list. So I've got 3,936 different titles to choose from. Ooh, this one's a good one, the Alan Bradley series, and Reese Bowen, that's also a good one. So I can already tell that this is going to have some really excellent suggestions for me because I already see some titles that I know I like. Now, this is still a pretty broad list, close to 4,000 titles. So let's see if we can go ahead and create a list that's a little less exhaustive. what I'm going to do for that is go back to the main page by clicking Gale Books and Authors, and right down here we have an advanced search link. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to ignore all of these boxes right here and instead scroll down to the More Options section. This is where things can get very, very specific. So I have options to search by publication year if I wanted to give it a range, like I only want books that were published between 1980 and 1992. I could do that. I'm not going to, but I could. I'm going to say I want fiction. If I want to go ahead and specify my genre right now, I could go ahead and do that. I'm going to leave this one blank for now, but I can go back and change it if I want. By audience, this is where I'm going to say I really only want adult books. Location, so if I wanted to type in Florida or Scotland or California or the North Pole, I could go ahead and type in a location there and it would pull up some books set in that location. But what I'm going to stick with is time period, and I am going to say, let's see here, just I think 19th century. So that will help with my kind of Victorian lady detective angle. Subject, and there are a ton of subjects in here. Just because a subject is listed doesn't necessarily mean it falls underneath the genre. Like earlier I was looking, aardvarks. It turns out there are no adult fantasy books about aardvarks. So just because it's here doesn't necessarily mean you're going to find your result under a particular genre. It might be there for the reason of a different genre. But anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, I was looking for the amateur detectives, and that is a category. Let me keep scrolling. Okay, as mentioned before, this is a pretty long list. Amateur. Or maybe it's under detective. Let's see here. Oh, here we go, detective fiction. Let's do that. Or maybe it was under character. Ah, this is what it is. Okay, so under character, you have your different types of characters. So I'm going to scroll through and find our amateur detective here. Let me undo detective. Take that out. Okay, and let's see, was it under detective amateur? Keep scrolling. There's so many things to choose from. So many things to choose from. Here we go. And not only do we just have amateur detective categories, we could have amateur detectives who are musicians, amateur detectives who are real estate agents, or socialites, or veterans, or writers, all of these. I'm going to stick with the broad amateur detective category and go with that. And let's go ahead right from with these categories and click on search and see what we come up with. And I've got 122 results for fiction, adult, set in the 19th century, with a character who is an amateur detective. This suits me just fine. 122 is much more reasonable and manageable than close to 4,000 titles to sort through. And as I'm scrolling through, I am recognizing some of the authors that I've read in the past that I have enjoyed, so I know that this list is going to be pretty good. So what I can go ahead and also do from here, if it turns out that I wanted to either expand the list, maybe I wasn't happy with 122, I could go ahead and take out any of these categories merely by clicking on the X. So we'll take out 19th century. That takes us to 2,113 results. Or, flip side, if I wanted to narrow it down even further, I can go back to those categories that we were looking at and, let's see here, and go ahead and reduce it a little bit more. So maybe I just want the ones in the historical fiction category, or inspirational fiction, or romantic. I could click on apply, and that brings my results down to 248. So this was fiction, adult, historical fiction, and amateur detective category. And again, I'm recognizing a bunch of the authors coming up on this list, so I am pretty confident I am going to be able to find something in here that I really enjoy. So another thing that we can do, this is when we started off with a specific, first we started off with a specific title or author and tried to find something similar. Then we were looking more by the characteristics of a book without having anything particularly in mind. What we also have on here is just a general genre browse, where if we click here where it says browse genres, you can pick your categories and it will give you some subcategories to choose from. So if you're looking for humanities, nonfiction, and then you got some further subgenres, maybe about the performing arts, we've got some suggestions right here. Alternately, let's go under fiction. Let's see here if we want something about maybe inspirational fiction with all of our different, and I was going to say I just really want adult books. There we go. Where you have some subgenres within the inspirational fiction category. There you go. And quite a few. Cozy mysteries, doppelganger, futuristic, historical, many things that you could choose from, and it would give you some suggested titles. Another aspect of this database is you have book lists. These are curated lists either by awards, expert picks, or librarian favorites. I really like the award winner aspect where you can go through, find a different book award, maybe for a genre that you really enjoy. For instance, the Hugo Awards. I love fantasy books, and this does science fiction or fantasy awards. So this is a list of all of the winners of Best Novel from the Hugo Awards from present all the way back to the 1950s. So this is a good way of just finding some other books that I might enjoy. Now, one thing to keep in mind, though, is that just because it appears in this database doesn't necessarily mean it's at the library. So you will have to find a title. So for instance, Neuromancer, that's a good one. Go back to the library's website and then go look at our catalog under Explore, Catalog, and then do a search there. So for instance, if I was looking for Neuromancer, type it in, ta-da, there it is. I can go ahead and have that brought in. If for whatever reason, though, it didn't show up and it turns out we don't have it, because every once in a while that happens, we can just start off back at the library's main page. Under Explore, we have an interlibrary loan service where you can borrow materials from outside of St. Johns County. So if it's somewhere like Miami or Jacksonville or Tampa, we can potentially bring that book in for you so you can still borrow it. So you don't have to drive all the way out there to get it. So that was Gale Books and Authors. One thing I do also want to point out is I have done another video on other book discovery tools that you might enjoy. It's on the library's YouTube page. So if you go to YouTube and look for SJC Library Vid, that is us, click on Playlists, scroll down a smidge, look for Info Nuggets with Amy, view the playlist, and I have done quite a few videos over the past year, but the one I want to point out is Tools for Readers. This has some other websites that you can use in order to discover new books, because hey, reading is fun. So thank you all very much for joining me today. If you ever have any questions, we can be reached at sjcpls@tblc.libanswers.com. We do have a Facebook presence, SJCPLS, or as I mentioned over on YouTube, we are SJC Library Vid. Please like, share, subscribe, all of those things. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope you find some good books to read. Thank you.